Unexpectedly, the first kill of the Ukrainian F-16 fighter jet came so quickly. On the 27th, Zelensky just claimed that the Ukrainian Air Force had used the American-made F-16 fighter jet for the first time to successfully shoot down multiple Russian missiles and drones. However, then on the 29th, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces issued an announcement confirming that an F-16 fighter jet crashed on the 26th and the pilot died unfortunately on August 26th. Russia launched a large-scale airstrike, using more than 100 missiles and a similar number of suicide attack drones. The targets were mainly various key infrastructures across Ukraine, especially energy facilities. In response, Zelensky confirmed at the 2020 for Ukrainian Independence Forum held in Kyiv on the 27th that the Ukrainian Air Force had used the American-made F-16 to resist this Russian attack and had shot down the incoming missiles. This should be regarded as the first victory of the Ukrainian F-16 fighter jet in air combat since the outbreak of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainian fighter jets have almost been completely lost under high-intensity combat to continuously transfuse blood to Ukraine. NATO has been searching for Soviet-style fighter jets for the Ukrainian army. It even does not hesitate to exchange F-16s for old MiG-29s of some countries. For example, Finland hopes to use its own F-16 to exchange for the MiG-29 of other countries and then send the MiG-29 to Ukraine. The process is extremely troublesome. Previously, there were multiple reasons why NATO did not directly donate F-16s to Ukraine. On one hand, mainly it was to avoid overly provoking Russia. After all, Russia has strong military strength and influence. NATO does not want to trigger an uncontrollable escalation of the situation by rashly providing a large number of F-16s to Ukraine. On the other hand, even if a small number of F-16s are provided, they may not play a decisive role in actual combat. In July last year, the Chief of the Air Staff of the British Royal Air Force and the NATO Air Force Chief of Staff pointed out that in the conflict, the Russian aerospace forces only lost 4% of fixed-wing aircraft and 10% of helicopters. However, the Ukrainian army has already lost 68 fighter jets, accounting for 78% of the entire 314 aircraft fleet. Such a huge loss ratio is sufficient to show that the Ukrainian army is facing enormous pressure in air combat. Therefore, even if NATO supports dozens of F-16s to Ukraine now, in such a fierce conflict situation, it may not be able to truly reverse the war situation. In addition, learning to fly the F-16 is not easy. It requires passing for subjects and the training time lasts as long as 9 months. Compared with providing Soviet-style fighter jets which can be flown immediately after getting familiar with them, learning to fly the F-16 is time-consuming and laborious. Therefore, NATO has always been conservative in providing F-16s to Ukraine. But this does not mean that NATO has no underhanded moves in private. In July last year, Yuri Ignik, an advisor to the Ukrainian Air Force Command, revealed on a TV program that Ukrainian pilots were already prepared to learn to fly the American F-16 fighter jet. The candidates include pilots proficient in English, and the second batch of personnel will follow the first batch to receive training. And this training work will be carried out in the long term. It is reported that the 162nd Wing of the United States responsible for training F-16 pilots for European countries conducted a test and evaluation onto Ukrainian active-duty pilots flying MiG-29 and Su-27 at the beginning of last year. The evaluation report said that they could complete basic operation training within 4 months, which is much faster than expected judging from the currently available information. NATO's training for Ukrainian pilots should follow two paths. One is short-term conversion training, mainly for Ukrainian active-duty fighter pilots to convert to flying F-16s in this kind of training. Pilots need to become familiar with the operational characteristics and tactical applications of the F-16 as soon as possible so that they can be put into battle in the shortest possible time. The other is long-term training. Starting from trainees and providing a comprehensive set of training in accordance with NATO standards. This process includes multiple links such as theoretical learning, simulation training, and actual flight. It takes about 7 years to train frontline fighter pilots. Such long-term training aims to cultivate a group of high-quality and professional F-16 pilots for Ukraine to enhance the overall combat capability of the Ukrainian Air Force. The currently ongoing short-term conversion training takes at least 4 months, including theoretical learning, 2 weeks of subject training, 3 weeks of air combat training. The mission training has been reduced from about 250 items of NATO standards to about 160 items. Mainly, it is single aircraft and double aircraft interception training, air combat using various types of air-to-air missiles, and ground attack training using laser-guided bombs and GPS-guided joint direct attack munitions. As for air refueling and close air support, these have been simplified and cancelled for Ukrainian pilots. The difficulties of this conversion training lie in how to overcome language barriers and use instruments and displays proficiently and quickly. After all, military aviation English is still very different from daily English. Another is how to change tactical training from the Soviet model to the American model in addition. How to establish a relevant logistical support system for F-16 fighter jets is also a great test for Ukraine, such as the training of a large number of ground crew professionals, as well as base maintenance and support, and the construction of safety guarantee facilities. So, it was not until the end of July this year that the arrival of the first batch of 10 F-16 fighter jets in Ukraine was confirmed. This date is clearly the deadline for the first batch of deliveries. Among them, the United States provided 2, and Denmark and the Netherlands each provided 4 in early August. The Ukrainian military held a high-profile commissioning ceremony for the F-16. President Zelensky personally attended and delivered a speech. The Ukrainian military also released flight training videos of F-16 fighter jets painted with the yellow trident emblem of the Ukrainian Air Force to the outside world. So now that this fighter jet that Ukraine has been longing for a long time is truly in place, what tactics will the Ukrainian army use and what impact will it have on the course of the war? The 8 F-16 fighter jets delivered by Denmark and the Netherlands to Ukraine at the end of July should all be F-16 AMBM that have undergone midlife upgrade MLU. And their combat performance is close to the Block 40-42nd standard currently in service with the U.S. Air Force. The F-16 AM fighter jet is equipped with the upgraded N APG-66 V2 Doppler mechanical scanning fire control radar. It can simultaneously track 10 air targets in the track while scan mode and guide the launch of AIM-120 medium and long-range missiles to simultaneously attack 6 of them in this operation to counter Russian missile and drone airstrikes. What Ukraine should have used is the excellent downward-looking performance of the F-16 AM and APG-66 V2 radar. You should know that the detection range of this radar for fighter jet targets is only about 100 kilometers. But the downward-looking distance is 44 to 67 kilometers moreover. The flat slot array antenna of APG-66 V2 can effectively suppress side lobe clutter. There are also 6 types of software for filtering, all of which can reduce the interference of ground clutter. The computing power of the F-16 AM fire control computer is also very strong, which creates conditions for detecting and tracking cruise missiles that penetrate at extremely low altitudes as for the AIM-120B medium-range missile. The detection range of its active radar seeker is about 10 kilometers. And when attacking low-altitude targets in a downward-looking mode, the seeker uses a medium pulse repetition frequency. It can not only separate the target from the clutter background, but also accurately measure distance. Its speed and distance measurement capabilities are both good therefore. Although AIM-120B cannot intercept hypersonic missiles like Kinzhal and ballistic missiles, like Iskander, it should not be a big problem to intercept cruise missiles like Kh-101 and Kalib that penetrate by flying at extremely low altitudes, as well as drones logically speaking. After the upgrade, the F-16AM fighter jet can completely carry and launch AIM-120CD medium and long-range air-to-air missiles, AIM-9X short-range air-to-air missiles, as well as HARM anti-radiation missiles and JDAM-guided bombs. However, according to the currently exposed photos, the Ukrainian F-16AM is carrying AIM-120B and AIM-9M missiles. These are old inventory models that are basically no longer used by the U.S. Air Force. The reason for this should be the U.S. approach to limit Ukraine's air combat capability. Patrick Ryder, spokesperson for the U.S. Department of Defense, clearly stated at a press conference on August 27 that Ukraine can use weapons provided by the United States to defend against cross-border attacks, but cannot conduct deep strikes on Russian territory. So, in the absence of guidance from early warning aircraft, the Ukrainian army should currently use the F-16 as an air defense fighter and conduct operations based on its own territory to make up for the deficiency in air defense capabilities. This is quite in line with the original positioning of the F-16. In addition to countering incoming missiles and drones, the Ukrainian F-16 can completely intercept Russian fighter jets such as the Su-34 and Su-25 that drop guided bombs in a hunting manner at present. The heavy and super heavy aviation bombs such as Fab-500 and Fab-1500 carried by the Russian Su-34 have caused a large number of casualties to the Ukrainian army and also greatly dampened the morale of the Ukrainian army. Use F-16 fighter jets to drive these fighter jets away from the combat area as much as possible, thereby temporarily curbing the fierce offensive momentum of the Russian army. Of course, the F-16 AMBM has strong attack capabilities against land and sea. However, whether it can fully exert this ability depends on whether NATO will provide long-range cruise missiles such as AG-158 and Taurus. Although the outside world is not optimistic about the limited number of F-16s at present, it must be pointed out that these are only preludes for now. Since NATO has taken this step, as long as the situation requires it in the future, they can provide more advanced fighter jets and supporting weapons and equipment at any time nowadays. Countries such as Norway, Belgium, and Greece have expressed their intention to contribute more F-16s. In particular, Greece even plans to provide F-16Vs upgraded from Block 30 to Block 70 standards. Sweden is also considering providing James 39 Gripen fighter jets to Ukraine. At that time, Russia will probably face more severe challenges for Ukraine. This crash of the F-16 may only be the beginning, as F-16s aided by various parties arrive one after another. The combat range of the F-16 will inevitably be further expanded, and the chances of it being exposed to Russian air defense firepower will also inevitably increase. So losses are only a matter of time among the currently only 6 pilots who can fly F-16s to perform combat missions. Losing one so quickly really makes the Ukrainian Air Force feel anxious and frustrated.